Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? Chris here from Esports News X Rotation, however the flip you know me in the interwebs, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys a recap of what happened during our first minor tournament of the 2026 season, that being, of course, Minor 1, going into the Major 3 tournament in Atlanta, Georgia, my hometown, that being, of course, DreamHack Atlanta. Now, hope you guys enjoyed the intro as always. And yeah, let's kick this off with really just chronological order, going in the order of the victories and losses for each team that we saw in Minor 1. So we kick things off at 3 p.m. with the Vancouver Surge taking on the Riyadh Falcons. You guys can see I thought this would be a Game 5 barn burner series. I thought that with Vancouver's recent improvements, of course, adding Nero, bringing him over from the Carolina Royal Ravens after his freaky tech scandal, no longer. I felt like the Vancouver Surge, they were making leaps and bounds to improve in the wake of Capsul's removal from the team. But the Riyadh Falcons are definitely a good team. And I did say that I felt like Riyadh has been kind of in a weird place, but odds are that they would win just given the fact that they've been a better team and the personnel you'd expect to definitely win most times in this matchup. So let's get into the box score and see exactly what went down. Who were the winners and who were the losers? Well, we know who the losers were. They were definitely the Vancouver Surge. That much is immutable. But let's see how things went down. So we, of course, had King Kobe Celium. The Celium Index has reared its ugly head once again. 1.22 from the man with the afro. And then, of course, you had Pred AG going absolutely nuts with 1.2. He had more kills, but, of course, his KD was not as good as his duo Celiums. So, Lunar's on the other side, he did his very best, 1.09 series KD, but everybody else on the team, they went negs, so it is what it is. Looking at the map 1, 250 to 246, the Vancouver Surge were able to eke out a very, very important win in this map 1. They almost let the Falcons come back and make the impossible comeback, but thankfully they stopped it. They righted the ship. Nero's 36 kills were not in vain, because if they had choked this, I would not have known what to think. Honestly, they were really trying to sell this game. Nero was just frying the whole time, and his teammates were just not trying to win the game. I mean, they were up like 200 to like 100 and something, and then they just let Falcons make the comeback through the second rotation, and it was just mind-blowing. So, looking at the map 2, Plaza S&D, this was a Falcons dominant performance, 6-2 from the green side. Of course, Pred AG, the guy that you expect to kind of be the vocal leader of this team, the most passionate player without a doubt on the team. 2.25 KD, 9-4 in terms of kills and deaths. Exonid 6-4, Kiz 7-5, and Cell 5-6. Map 3, Scar Overload went 4-3 in favor of the Riyadh Falcons. Very close one. They played this really, really well. Cell 25-19, 28-26 from the Bulldog, 27-26 from Pred AG, and 27-28 from X. So, in the map 4, they closed it out pretty decisively, 250-174. No big surprises there. Cell 19-12, 26-19 from Pred, 24-18 from X, 20 and 18 from the Bulldog. Lunar's on the other side, 1.05. I mean, he had a great 4 maps, but, teamwork was not there, and that was the difference maker in the series. Speaking of teamwork not being there and that being the difference maker in the series, we, of course, had the Boston Brioche on the Blow It Up watch taking on the Miami Heretics, who consequently made the finals of this tournament. Series MVP was who else but Mr. Trakes, the guy who I've had my eye on all season as my clear-cut Rookie of the Year. I've said since the start of the season that I thought Trakes would win Rookie of the Year, and here we are, and Trakes is looking to be one of the top 10 players in the world currently. So, in this series, we of course had Afro doing everything he could, 66 and 62 KD for him, and then everybody else on this team went negative by at least 10, at the least 13, so yeah, I mean, if you have a guy going neg 13, you have Nasty going neg 16, I mean, you're not winning shit, right? On the other side, you had Trakes going positive plus 14, plus 11 for Rancor, plus 7 for Metals, and plus 1 for Super. So, yeah, just outslayed by a margin of 33 kills, and that'll definitely do it. So looking at outslaying, 250, 199 in favor of the Miami Heretics on one of their bread and butter maps, Colossus HP. They, I believe, now sit at 6-3 overall on Colossus HP. Definitely one of the better Colossus teams in this game. Given their pacing, personnel, makes a lot of sense, right? 28 and 22 from Rancor, 33 and 27 from Trakes, whose pace has been phenomenal this weekend. 29 and 28 from Super, who was upping the pace in this map. I was very surprised by his pace. And 25 and 27 from Metals. 6-0 in the map 2 S&D. Not a lot to talk about there. Rare takeover game from Rencor. I mean, very, very rare quiet game for Super. 4-3, Rencor 9-3. Then the map 3, the Exposed Overload. Boston Breach kind of tried to make it close, but no cigar, right? 31-23 from Metals, 29-24 from Drakes, and then on the other side, Afro only player to go positive, so not a lot to say there. Let's move on to the next series, which was another 3-9, 3-9, 3-0, C9 getting taken down by G2. You guys can see I thought it would be a 3-2. I thought Game 5 G2, Heart Attack G2 would rear its ugly head. Thought C9 was making improvements, but guess I was wrong. I guess this matchup is not as favorable as Optic for C9, oddly enough. So Estriel, Series KD leader. He was Series MVP. 49 kills, 38 deaths, 5,500 damage. So not really a lot to do in this series, right? Looking at it, of course, Nezra, the only player on the C9 side to stand out. He's been the standout all season, like I've been saying. 1.21, 57-47. I had to take a little sip of water. 49-38 from Estra, like I said a second ago. Plus 12 from Mamba, 58-46. 48-45 from Caesar. I invested in my game Bueno. And then 53-51 from Kremplassus himself. Scar HP, 250-93. 100-point club is insane. 34-20 from Mamba. And everybody else just did their thing. Everybody's positive. Map 2, 6-1 S&D on Scar. I mean, 6-3 from Mamba. 9-6 from Kremp. 5-4 and 4-4. From Skies and Estriel, respectively. And then 6-5 in the Overload. Honestly, C9 went up 5-1. And then the G2 Minnesota boys made the miraculous comeback. I'll probably have that playing as a highlight in the background, and much to the chagrin of future me editing this. But yeah, I mean, it was just that insane. So if you guys missed it, go back and check it out on the channel, along with all the other Minor 1 highlights, which reminds me I need to make the Minor 1 playlist after I finish recording this video. So, in our next series, speaking of this video, we had the Toronto Koi, the Toronto Kips, the Toronto Thieves, whatever you want to call them, taking on the Carolina Royal Ravens, Sans Nero, plus fire. So, of course, we had Joe Thieves as our series MVP, 1.28 KD on the series, 78 kills, 61 deaths, 9,000 damage. Looking at the Carolina Royal Ravens side, the BK actually was the standout for the team this time. Kind of surprising. Usually the BK does not top the leaderboards. And then Craze was 68 and 66. Fire and Lurks both went negative. Rare to see Lurks go negative, especially right now. He's been playing really well. On the Toronto Koi side, only player to go positive was Joe Thieves. This was Joe Thieves carry job, right? Typical. 1.28. Everybody else went negative, and the least negative person went negative by 2 kills. So not really super negative, but teammates still going in the red. I mean, that's kind of tough, right? So, we kicked things off with a 250, 249 HP. If you missed this one, definitely go back and watch it on the channel. This was probably the best 1-point hardpoint that we've seen this year, and we've seen quite a few, so that's saying something. So if you missed it, definitely go back and check it out. If you missed any of the highlights from this weekend, I highly recommend that you go back and check it out. I'm going to do a video this week just with my top plays from the major or from the minor, because we had some amazing action. So, map 2 S&D. Speaking of amazing action, we of course had a 6-4 in favor of the Toronto Koi side. Not really too surprising there, right? 11 and 6 from Deceives, 7 and 6 from his duo Kleenex, and then Kipson Insight went neg, but it didn't really matter. On the other side, you had Fire 40 doing his very best. He went 8 and 7, and then Craze went 9 and 8. Then in the map 3 to close things out, the Toronto Koi, of course, got a 4-1 decisive victory in Overload. They're a pretty good Overload team, so not surprising here. Honestly, just a pretty slow day for Kips. Like, he didn't really have to do a lot, and he wasn't going positive, but he also was negative, like, 7 kills, 6 kills, something like that, so really not that bad. Not really anything to be concerned about. 8 kills, so not that serious. So yeah, I mean, great showing from the Toronto boys. Of course, you had Joe 34 and 26 in the Overload, which is insane. 28 and 26 from Kleenex, and et cetera, et cetera. With no OT, 34 kills in Overload is bonkers. So, speaking of bonkers, we of course had an upset coming through. We had the Miami Heretics taking down the Paris Gentlemates. You guys can see that in my bracket, I had the mate win coming through, but in real life, that did not come to fruition. So let's see how that happened. Super, of course, is the main reason why that happened. 1.24 KD, 99 kills, 80 deaths, 12,000 damage in 4 maps. Holy. So 99 kills, 80 deaths, 99 bottles of beer on the wall, 89 kills from Rancor, 77 deaths, 88 and 83 for Trakes, and then 83 and 83 for medals. So, yeah, I mean, you outslay these guys by what? What is that, like 45-ish kills? Like 46, I think. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty tough. Or 36, rather. My math is terrible, y'all. Hey, I did not go to school for math. So, yeah, on the other side, you had Neptune going pause 5, but yeah, I mean, if you're getting outslayed by 36 kills, like, GG, brother, GG. So, looking at map 1, speaking of GG, we had a 250-236 Sake hardpoint coming through for the Gentlemates. Of course, Neptune went absolutely nuclear, 35 and 25. He was just running this map. And honestly, Miami Heretics, they played this as tight as could be. They played this very well for the fact that, considering the fact, that they were getting outslayed by 8 on the side of Rancor and Metals. Those two got outslayed by 16 combined. And it was a 15-point game, 14-point game. So that's pretty surprising, but honestly, Miami, their objective efficiency and their team play is second to none in this game. That's why they made finals, right? So on the mate side, of course, you can see green lights from everybody. Envoy +2 for Sib, and then Ghosty went neg by 2. And of course, we said Neptune was +10. So a margin of +12 in the kill feed, but you only get 15 seconds of time to really bank your hat on, or hang your hat on, rather. Speaking of hanging your hat on things, Super hung his hat on this fringe S&D. He clocked in, he went right to the train yard, and he said, hey, I got my hard hat on, got to lay some tracks down and do my job. And he damn sure did his job, 10 and 6, and then Rancor 7 and 5, Drake 7 and 6, and then Metals 3 and 7. So quiet game for Metals. I think he had a pretty quiet series, right? Yeah, he just went even. So on the other side, on the Gentlemates, Ghost was 9 and 6, and Envoy was 8 and 6. So that duo from the LA Thieves, they tried their very best to stave off the L, but it was, imminent. Speaking of imminent, the L in map 3 was imminent for the Gentlemates. This is where the Miami Heretics really regained momentum and kind of cemented themselves as a different team, right? This was a metamorphosis kind of experience for them. They've been losing to teams of this caliber all year long, and they finally got over the hump by beating this Mates team. And I think, honestly, when we look back through the whole season, I feel like this moment will be really important in terms of catapulting the Miami Heretics into a different echelon. I feel like they have finally ascended to that next echelon that I've been saying that they've been on the precipice of getting into all season long. So I feel like this was a very serious turning point for this team in this season, and I think we'll look back on this map, specifically the Scar Overload, very, very favorably when we look back at the year for the Heretics. So Trake's 34 and 26. This was his coming out party. 25 and 20 for Rancor, 24 and 20 for Super, and 28 and 24 for the lifeblood of the Heretics medals. So the map for Colossus HP, a map that the Gentlemates are quite fond of and quite familiar with. The Miami Heretics were able to topple them behind 35 and 22 from who else but the Rookie of the Year, reigning Rookie of the Year, Rancor, the captain of the team. 31 and 23 from Metals, 35 and 27 from Super, who was matching his AR duo, it must be said. And then Trakes, of course, rare slowing for him, 22 and 24. Now, looking at this, the next series, we had a rematch between Cell and Simp. Of course, it always has to be Cell and Simp, right? In the 430 slot. So I thought it'd be a 3-1 for Faze, you guys can see. Ended up being a 3-1 for them. 1.21 for Simp, 88 kills, 73 deaths. Of course, Simp loves to play Cell, so not really too surprising there. Looking at the Falcon side, whole lot of red. Shout out to Cardi. And then on the FaZe Vegas side, nothing but green lights. So much like that Squid Games doll, red light, green light kind of series. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you're getting outslayed by 39 kills, you probably had nothing but red lights in your way, right? You did not pass go and collect that 200. So, speaking of passing go and collecting that 200, Cell was 26 and 25 in the map 1, but the Falcons lost this one 250 146. It was never close. 30 and 20 from the CEO, hostile takeover board meeting called, whatever you want to call it, emergency meeting. Someone was removed from the plane. Actually, 4 people were removed from the plane. Among Us reference, it was the Falcons. They were quite sus. 26 and 20 from the Major 2 MVP 04. 25 and 20 from Abuza, and 23 and 25 from Simp the Pimp. So 6-2 on the S&D. They need some leg room. Simp 12-4, Abuza 6-5, 5-5 from the CEO, and 0-4 went 6-6. Game 3, Scar Overload. This was a surprising Overload victory for the Falcons, but they have been clearly one of the better Overload teams on the year, at least consistently, right? Their issue has always been S&D, so seeing them win this was definitely pretty convincing, and it's definitely encouraging for a team that's been struggling so mightily, right? 28 and 26 from Exnid, that's what you really want for the Falcons. You want him to really get active and really be a real presence on the map. You know, Pred, Kismet, and Cell, they're veteran players. They've won champs. They know how to get back ingratiated into a game, even if they're not starting off the best. But a player like Exnid, who's young, doesn't have the accolades or the experience, you definitely love to see this player development for him. So, on the Faze side, they outslayed, but they lost the map, right? So you can see they outslayed by about 4 kills in total. 0-4 was +9, Simp was +4, and then Abuza was even, and Draws was -9. So that's the big draw that really negated 0-4's great performance and subsequently helped the Falcons win, right? So, in the map 4, this did not help the Falcons win. Pred dropped 30 and 21. He was going nuts. His pacing in this map was actually insane. You can see his damage output was about 300 more than the second closest person. Well, I mean, his damage output was only about like 81 more than Kismet, so it was comparable to everybody else. He just had way more kills. So, looking at the Faze side, of course, you can see green lights for everybody but 0-4, but he went -3, so negligible, right? 25 and 20 for Simp, 26 and 22 for Abuza. The Zaza duo, they both dropped 26. Draza, of course, at 25. Deaths to Competence, 26 kills. And yeah, that's how Faze got it done and booked their ticket to Sunday. So, speaking of people booking their tickets to Sunday, we have Mercules, the savior of Optic, the mullet, whatever we're calling him now. 1.34 KD, 90 kills, 67 deaths. I thought that Optic would beat Koi in a game 5. I thought it would be a pretty deep series. I thought it would go pretty deep, but I guess didn't. So, speaking of going deep, let's look at the scoreboard and not get too deep into it because there's not a lot to talk about. Kips was the only player on Koi to go green with a +1 differential, right? On the Optic side, you of course had Merc, unsurprisingly, leader of the series. 90 kills, 67 deaths, like I said a second ago. 86 and 76 from Shotzi. The Warlord, 79 and 73 from Bruce. And then Hook went slightly neg, so not really a big deal. I mean, they outslayed by about 34, so you're going to be happy with that. Looking at the map 1, speaking of happy with that, Optic fans came out pretty hot. Optic came out pretty hot with a 250-219 on Den HP, which has been the best map for Koi since adding Kips to their roster. So this is a very big win for Optic in terms of like really quelling the momentum that this team has really started to amass in the last few weeks. So important way to start off the series. They of course only had CleanX going positive by 1 kill, and then Optic had Merc going 30 and 23, and then Shotzi going 30 and 24 to complement him. Hook and Dashi, of course, went negative slightly. Hook went -1, Dashi went -2, but great overall team performance from the Optic boys. Everybody did their part. In the map 2, of course, everybody did their part once again. 6-3 in favor of the Green Wall. Joe Deceives 9-6. Great solo performance, but not enough to affect winning the game. Dashi 10-6 overall. He was going absolutely nuts. Yeah, Dashi with that pistol is crazy. Merc 7-5, 7-8 from Shotzi, and Hook was 3-5. So, in the map 3, Scar Overload, this one was really just dominant from the Toronto Koi all the way through. 30 and 23 from Joe Deceives, Kips was 28 and 23, CleanX was 30 and 26. And then on the Optic side, the only player to go positive was Dashi, going positive by 3. But the map 4, this is why you don't want to piss Mercules off. Yeah, he blacked out. I mean, he was absolutely pissed. He clearly did not want to play a map 4. I was like, damn, this dude had dinner reservations or something, because it was like Michael Jordan. It became personal for him. So yeah, 19-18 from Kips, 24 and 10 from Shotzi, Jesus Christ, 28 and 13 from Merc, 21-19 from Hook, and 18-17 from Dashi. So yeah, oh my god. Look at this differential, y'all. Damn, Optic went +32 in an HP. That is insane. +32 is brutal. Brutal. Okay, so we had the LA Thieves taking on G2 Minnesota in the next matchup. You guys can see I thought it would be a 3-1. I thought the Thieves would have a pretty easy cakewalk with G2. G2's been struggling mightily all season against teams of this caliber, so not really surprised to see they got swept, right? 1.29 from the new pickup for the LA Thieves, Neum. 58 kills, 45 deaths. Looking at the scoreboard, Mamba only player on G2 to go positive, 56 and 51. And then on the LA Thieves side, you had Neum 58 and 45, Scrap 62 and 50, Abizi 55 and 46, and Hydra 52 and 53. Looking at the map one, we of course had a 250 to 229 performance from the LA Thieves. This one was much closer than I thought it would be, but only because the LA Thieves kind of took their foot off the gas and G2 started to mount a comeback in the second rotation of hills. But it was pretty much done from the outset. Like, yeah, G2 did not look like they had much of a puncher's chance in this series. After looking at the map one and how it started, I was just kind of like, it'll probably be a skill diff, and definitely was. Speaking of skill diff, the LA Thieves continued that hot performance into the map 2 where they went 6-3. And look at the box score, of course, I didn't go over it all the way, but Mamba 32 and 21, he blacked out. That was the only reason why G2 was able to stay in the game or get close to making a comeback. 27-23 from Abizi, 29-26 from Scrap, 26 and 24 from Neum, and then Hydra at 26 and 28. Like I was saying a second ago before I so rudely interrupted myself, 6-3 scoreline for the LA Thieves. They ran it up on the map 2. Scar S&D, 10-6 from Scrap, 7-5 from Neum, 6-6 from Hydra and Abizi, and that's pretty much all she wrote. Grump was 12-6. He was going absolutely nuts in this S&D, but he got no help from his teammates, especially Mamba, who was 1-8. So, yeah, that'll do it. Speaking of that'll do it, the Thieves absolutely belted these guys 6-0 on the Scar Overload. I mean, there were 3 minutes on the clock by the time we finished the first half of this Overload, and then they just kind of let the clock run out for the last 5 and just chase them around, and, it was pretty brutal. So 25 and 16 from Neum, 22 and 17 from Abizi, 23 and 18 from Scrap, and 20 and 19 from Hydra. And on the Minnesota G2 side, the only player to go even slightly positive was Mamba, who was +1. So, looking at our next series, we had a really surprising one in the upper semifinals. So we had Faze taking on the Miami Heretics. You guys can see I thought they'd be taking on the Gentle Mates. I don't know why I said Gentle Mates. Speaking of mates, Rancor, he got his mates through, and he really got not a surprising victory. They 3-0'd Faze last time they played. An upset for sure, considering the fact that Faze were Major 2 winners and Miami's been struggling so mightily. But Miami being Miami, this makes sense, right? 78 and 67 from Rancor, and then with 10,000 damage. And then looking at his teammates, Super was 86 and 77 with a 1.12. Drake's was 77 and 74 with a 1.04, and then Metals was slightly neg, going neg 10 overall. So, on the Faze Vegas side, you of course had 04 being the only player to go slightly positive. He went positive by 2 kills, so negligible. Simp -3, Abuza -5, and Draws -10. So, not really that bad. I mean, -16 across the board in the series. That means, you weren't getting outslayed that badly, right? So, looking at the map one, speaking of not getting outslayed that badly, you of course had the Zaza duo getting outslayed by a margin of 17 kills. They got outslayed pretty badly in the map one. Let's call a spade a spade. But on the Miami Heretics side, you had Super going 38 and 31, 32 and 28 from Rancor, 35 and 31 from Trakes, and 30 and 35 from Metals. On the Faze Vegas side, Simp 38 and 33, 04, 39 and 38 to complement, but was not enough. In the map 2, speaking of not enough, you of course had Miami just having their way in this map. I mean, they just absolutely dominated Faze. They dog walked them, countered everything with their aggression and their team plays. Faze, they sent a lot of 2 splits, where Miami was just sending decisive 4 hits, and that's really the game. So Super was 12 and 5, 8 and 6 from Metals, 5 and 5 from Trakes, and then on the other side, Draza, the CEO, called a board meeting, but no one showed up. Everybody called out sick. 10 and 6 from him, but wasn't enough to get the job done. Looking at the map 3, the Den Overload, where of course obviously the series ended. This was actually the longest overload in the history of COD. I believe it's the longest map in the history of COD. It was 18 minutes. It went to double overtime, and then Miami scored in sudden death, so it was just insane. 42 and 34 from Rancor, 37 and 38 from Trakes. I mean, everybody went over 30 kills, which is nuts. I don't think that's ever happened. 45 and 38 from 04, which definitely set the exposure kill record, and 41 and 37 from Abuza. So yeah, it was a really fun series, but definitely a very surprising series, right? Speaking of very surprising series, we of course had Optic Texas getting toppled by the LA Thieves. I thought it would be a Game 5 victory for the Green Wall. Ended up being a Game 5 victory for the Thieves. So, looking at it, we of course had Abizi as the series MVP, 1.01 KD, 97 kills, 96 deaths, which means everybody else on Thieves went negative. Interesting. They went negative 18 and still won the series. Wow. Impressive. Looking at the Optic side, you had Dashy going plus 15, you had Merc going plus 4, Dashy's 103 and 88, Merc 94 and 90, and then Shotzi went even, and Hook went neg 5, and they still lost. So that just goes to show how good the teamwork and objective efficiency from the LA Thieves were, and also how the front half of the maps, like where they were getting outslayed, really, I'm sorry, the back half of the maps where they were getting outslayed really kind of sunk the KDs of the LA Thieves players. Speaking of sunken KDs, looking at the map 1, their KDs were already pretty low, right, to begin with, apart from Abizi. So Merc had 27 and 22 for the Optic side, 28 and 27 for Shotzi, Hook was 20 and 22, and Dashi was 20 and 23. And then on the other side, you had 29 and 24 for Abizi, too easy for him, 25 and 26 from Hydra, his SMG duo. And then the AR struggled a little bit, 20 and 22 from Niam, and Scrap 19 and 24. I mean, they went slightly negative, but they won the map, so they were getting the kills they needed to, right? Looking at the map too, speaking of getting kills they needed to, Abizi was 12 and 4. The first Blood Reaper he wasn't back, but he was just getting a lot of kills. So 12 kills, 4 deaths, and then Hydra 9 and 5 is SMG duo, 5 and 5 from the ARs, and that's all she wrote. All red for the Optic boys. Map 3, where Optic got it back, all green for them, all red for the Thieves. 32 and 21 from Dashy. He went nuts in this overload. He was absolutely cooking, and you could tell the Optic was just trying to get right. 25 and 22 from his AR duo Merc. 30 and 27 from Shotzi, and then Hook went even. So all red for the LA Thieves, everybody went negative. I will say Hook had a pretty bad weekend for the most part, so seeing the Optic loss is not that surprising. Speaking of surprising, no one was more surprised than the LA Thieves when they lost this Colossus HP, 250 to 216. Of course, Dashy went 41 and 29. He absolutely went nuts. 33 and 25 from Shotzi, and then Niam on the other side went positive too, 32 and 30, but everybody else on his team went negative. So, looking at the Fringe S&D where we close this out, Hook, of course, had his rare good performance in this tournament, right? 8 and 6 to close things out, but too little, too late. Scrap was 8 and 3, Hydra was 10 and 4, BZ 6 and 5, and Niam, he just had his feet up, but LA Thieves just looked too good, and that's how they booked their ticket to the grand finals, where they faced the Miami Heretics. Excuse me, as you guys can see, I thought it would be Faze Vegas taking down Optic Texas, but it was not either of these teams. It was LA Thieves taking down the Miami Heretics. So, as you guys can see, Scrap was the series MVP. Not too surprising. I mean, if you think of Thieves getting to a final, we all pretty much expect Scrap to take the MVP. In years past, with Hydra teams, it would have been Hydra, but Scrap is Scrap. So, looking at the box score, Trake's 124 kills, 117 deaths. I mean, this box score does not speak to what Trake's was doing visually on the map. Rancor went even, Super went negative by 11, and then Metals went negative by, goddamn, 23 kills. That'll definitely do it. So, yeah, looking at the LA Thieves side, Scrap, of course, went positive 36. Goddamn. Abizi went positive 2, Hydra went neg 7, and then Niam went neg 8 for his first chip. So, looking at the map 1, Sake Hardpoint, this is where the Thieves really set the tone for the finals. They came out really hot. I mean, they absolutely dominated the Miami Heretics. The only reason why they had 199 points was just similar to the previous series that the Thieves played early in the weekend against G2. They kind of let their foot off the gas on the Sake, which happened in the G2 Sake Hardpoint as well. So, something to note. 31 and 22 from Scrap, 25 and 18 from Niam, 21 and 19 from Hydra, and then BZ went negative by 5, so not a big deal. Everybody on Miami Heretics got tucked, so it is what it is. Looking at the map 2, Fringe S&D. This is a map that Miami is definitely emerging as probably the best team in the game at, because they've beaten Faze on it, they've beaten LA Thieves on it, they beat Mates on it. They beat Mates on it, right? They play on Fringe S&D? Yeah, they beat Mates on it. So, yeah, I mean, they're 3-0. They play Mates, Thieves, and Faze. So, I think this is going to be an instant veto going forward. Drake's 11 and 5, Rancor 7 and 5, Metal 6 and 5, and Super 6 and 6. And Hydra. Scrap is the only player to go positive with 9 and 7. The reason why this map is so favorable to Miami is because that B site room. Oh my God, that's like a nightmare. And the A site, the entire A site. You have super sniping, watching the long angles on train side. Then you have that small room that Trakes and Metals can play like demons. You have Rancor like right on the alley. I mean, it's just a nightmare match for anyone going up against this Heretics team. It just feels like it's catered to their playstyle. So, speaking of catered to their playstyle, the exposure overload evidently was catered to their playstyle as they won at 7-6, behind a strong performance from who else but Trakes, the man who's been on a mission in all of Stage 3 ever since the NPC was added in. He has been unlocked. So he was 30 and 21, 1.43 KD for the win in this map 3, excuse me. Rancor was 28 and 20, and then on the other side you had BZ, the only player to go positive. He went pos 7, but everybody else went negative. So in the map 4, this was a much different story. The LA Thieves did much better than they did in the previous map. Of course, the Colossus went their way 250 to 161 behind a 37 and 24 blackout from Scrap and 30 and 27 from Abizi. So yeah, I mean, if you have them doing that, it doesn't matter that Hydra went neg 6 and Neum went neg 11. I mean, they got put in the backpack of all backpacks. And team-wise, they still were only outslayed by 1 kill. So, looking at it, Trakes is 29 and 27, Super is 25 and 24, and Metals went even, and yeah, that's all she wrote. Speaking of all she wrote, the LA Thieves made quick work of the Scar S&D. It was 6-2, very decisive. 10 and 5 from Scrap, 8 and 4 from Hydra, 6 and 5 from BZ, and Neum was 3 and 6. And on the other side, Metals is the only standout, going 8 and 5 for the Heretics. And then to close things out, of course, the LA Thieves, they took that momentum. They were down 2-0 with like a minute to go going into the half. They made 2 clutch caps, and that was really what sealed the tournament for them. The Heretics just never really rebounded mentally after those 2 quick caps because the other cap was like in extra time. So, yeah, I mean, to be up 2-0 for 5 minutes, but not because in the last 30 seconds you give up, it's pretty hard to really maintain going into that next half, and it just kind of snowballed mentally for them from there, and that's how the game was lost. So 30 and 28 was not enough for Rancor to get it done. Super, of course, 27 and 27, that was not enough when you have Metals going 18 and 34. So after this map and seeing what happened in the grand finals, it might be time to call Real in. You know, Metals, he was good in pockets, but he had quite a few stinkers this weekend, so I feel like Real is going to come in and make the replacement pretty soon. So let's give the Thieves their flowers before we talk about that. 33 and 22 from Scrap, Hydra 33 and 28. The duo was duoing. Neum 27 and 23, and then Abizi went even for the win. So all green for the Thieves. They won minor 1, and let's see how many points they got. They got 30 points for winning it, spoiler, but let's see where they are on the standings overall. So they're in 4th place. They've been in 4th place pretty comfortably, but they are now 15 points behind our Major 1 champions, the Paris Gentlemaids. So the Miami Heretics, they leapfrogged over G2 Minnesota. Going into the weekend, they were at 145. So they were above Falcons in 7th place, but now they are currently sat in 5th place above G2 and Koi. So yeah, they just jumped over them. Yeezy just jumped over Jumpman type shit. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, guys, that's what wrap it up for me. Hope you guys have a great morning, noon, or night. Don't forget to come back tomorrow for a preview of what to expect going into week 2 of the CDL Major 3 qualifiers. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you have a great morning, noon, or night wherever you may be on this beautiful planet. I'll catch you guys on the next one. This is Chris from Esports News, Active Station. However, the flipping on these interwebs, and I'll see you guys on the next one.